Hello everyone, my name is Xinghui, also go by Erica. Today I'm presenting our work that explored users' perceptions and expectations of shapes for dialogue designs. This work was done during my summer internship at Google Material Design. Thanks to my great team for their kind support and guidance in conducting this work. In today's user interface designs, shape is a fundamental visual characteristic. As the mobile UI gradually evolved to a more flat design, shapes serve as important clues for users to distinguish UI components. For example, Google Material Design develops a shape scale for UI components with different rounded corners, ranging from none to fully rounded. These shapes are assigned to different components, such as a button, a list item, or a dialog. Different design systems also have different guidelines on the shape. On the other hand, shapes can make UI design more expressive and stylish. Google Material U explores new shapes as UI containers. Shapes are used to enhance the visual aesthetics of a user interface or used to express a distinct perspective in a style or a brand. However, we're still unclear about what shapes offer to UI regarding their semantic meanings. Does a certain shape make the displayed information seem more important or urgent? How do users perceive and expect the information presented in containers with different shapes? Hence, we sought to understand the impact of shapes on user perceptions and expectations for the information displayed. We use Dialog UI as a case study here. You can think of a pop-up window showing an alert on your screen. We chose a Dialog UI because it is used to display diverse messages and often interrupts the user's interaction flow. To achieve this goal, we started by creating 6 Dialog UIs with different shapes as containers. As you can see on the screen here, we grouped these dialogs into 3 pairs for our preliminary investigation. For pair 1, it includes the typical angular basic and rounded basic dialog. Pair 2 includes 2 hexagon shapes with angular and rounded corners. With pair 3, we designed a circle and a wiggly circle as dialog containers. With these shapes, we aim to prompt users' perceptions of different shapes used for UI components. We conducted an online survey with 200 participants and had them compare 3 pairs of dialog UIs regarding characteristics like trustworthiness, perceived importance of the displayed messages. We also selected 8 typical dialog messages to represent important, non-important, and app versus system messages to prompt users' perception on which dialog is more expected to present a certain message. For the data analysis, we did descriptive analysis and statistical modeling to examine how shapes and different types of messages played a role here. If you are interested, please refer to our paper. What did we find? First, our results show that users seem to prefer rounded dialog designs. Because dialog UIs with angular shapes were less likely to be chosen to be more attractive, playful, or unique compared to UI containers with rounded shapes. However, we found that different dialog designs did not seem to hamper user trust and perceived security. We used different messages to represent important versus non-important messages. We found that shapes could impact the perceived importance of the displayed content. We found a significant difference for pair 2, the angular hexagon versus rounded hexagon. Participants had a significantly higher tendency to expect the angular dialog to display an important message, like an app crash message over the rounded dialog. As you can see in the figure here, for the non-important messages, relatively only around 20 participants would expect the angular hexagon to display this ask or like thank you message. Now, I want to share what we've learned from the study. I'll discuss 2 aspects: design implications and our study design. Starting with design implications, Our findings suggest that designers may consider exploring the shape story of UI components. Designers can include more diverse shapes for UI designs because from our results, unique shapes do not hamper user perception on trustworthiness and security of the dialog design. Using diverse shapes does not only mean to be more stylish or express branding. It also means that we may smartly use different shapes to indicate the importance of a message so that users could determine their attendance to the message by just glancing at the container shape. Future research would perform a comprehensive mapping between shapes and semantic meanings in the context of UI component design. However, since our results show that shapes could alter user perceptions and expectations for the displayed information in dialog UIs, designers and researchers want to be more mindful of semantic meanings that UI characteristics offer. Typical characteristics include color, shape, typography, and icon, which all embody semantic meanings. In the future, researchers may want to conduct an investigation on the semantic meanings embodied in different UI styles. If designed appropriately, the selection of shapes or other UI characteristics can facilitate user interactions. So, if researchers want to delve in the design of UI components, how can they design the studies? We benefit a lot from the study design to yield interesting and informative results. Here, I want to share two interesting and helpful tips. First, we benefit from the use of comparison-based surveys to quickly perform investigation on specific UI characteristics. Initially, we try to present each single prototype to user and ask for their perceptions. Then we realized that some of the dialog designs either were familiar to them or relatively too novel, which made it challenging for users to translate their perception into numerical values. So when asking users to compare two designs or prototypes side by side, it's quite easy for users and it will actually yield more informative results. The second tip is to situate the study of visual characteristics under specific scenarios. If we ask participants which of the following pop-up window do you expect to display an important message, users may find it difficult to recall what is an important message. So we provided participants with specific scenarios and had them compare different dialogues under each scenario in order to obtain data of higher quality. We believe that such scenario-based evaluation has the potential to be extended in the future research. Here is a summary of our work. We conducted an online survey study with 200 participants to explore user perceptions and expectations of different shapes used for dialog UI. Our study showed that rounded dialog designs were more preferred, but overall different dialog shapes did not hamper perceived trustworthiness or security. Importantly, we found that shapes could alter perceived importance of the messages displayed in a dialog. Our study suggests to first explore the shape story of UI components, but be mindful of the semantic meanings that shapes offer. In terms of the study design, in the future, researchers may consider using situation-based and comparison-based surveys to investigate specific UI characteristics. Again, I want to thank the material design team, the colleagues and the folks from the material design team. And thank you very much for your time to listen to my talk.